Hello and happy Wednesday. I'm Beverly Hosford and this is my friend Erin Nitschke. We are live with the National Federation of Professional Trainers, the NFPT. We are a personal training company. We certify personal trainers, help them with continuing education, and really just help them with anything. I mean, heck, if you have a question about, I don't know, shoveling your driveway, you could probably call over to headquarters and they would happily help you out because they are some nice folks over there at headquarters. It's a family-run business and we like to consider all of our trainers family. So thanks for joining us today. I am in Montana and Erin is in Wyoming. And funny story, we've actually never met in person. We are virtual business partners. Hi, Jason.
Hey,
We love to know. Is one of the NFPT family members. So tell us where you're at. If you're just tuning in, tell us where you're located. We would love to know. So we're really excited today because it's the second episode for our sleep series. Sleep is something that Erin and I have gotten real passionate about recently because, well, we like to sleep. And so we did an episode last week about sleep science, and I'm going to just throw this up here in the comments because if you missed it, we talked all about cortisol, adenosine, lots of different hormones that play into sleep and why sometimes after you get a good night's sleep, you don't feel so good, and why after you get a bad night's sleep, sometimes you feel really good the next day. So tune into that one if you want to know about those mechanisms, and we might throw some of those words out there today. But today is fun because we're going to talk about we're going to give you 8 tips or ways to help yourself sleep better. And you may have heard of some of them, but I'm willing to bet you may not have heard of all of them. And if you didn't know, Erin and I just took a course with the University of Michigan a few weeks ago, and we learned a lot from the sleep researchers there. So we want to give them credit over there for helping us be so knowledgeable. So that's what's going to be happening today. But let me just check in with my friend here. How are you doing today, Erin?
I'm good. I'm really good. Happy to be inside. It's a cold one out there today.
Yeah. What's the temp in Wyoming?
I've been too afraid to look. To be honest. I'm like, I can just gauge by looking out and it's cold.
I'm not going out there. Yeah.
So how about you?
Pretty chilly here too. It's slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in, what's the temperature where you are? I think it might be like 20 here, but I'm not really sure. All I know is I have on my big puffy vest today. And I wanted to ask everyone, so how are you feeling about this time change? Did you like it? Yes. Do you not like it? No. Erin, what do you think? Do you like the time change?
No, I do not. Hey, Billy. Yeah, it's really affected Olivia. So we've done we tried to shift the bedtime thing. Mm-hmm. And she's up at 5 a.m. ready to go. I'm like, no, that's not what we want. It's bedtime. Shh, go back to sleep. But yeah, it's really affected her. And I mean, we've had sleep challenges anyway with her, at least recently, with teething molars and that kind of a thing, which is just every parent's nightmare. I will just be completely honest. Good luck to you when that happens with your little man. So it's been a challenge, but I have not liked it for that reason because it has just thrown her off. And then when she's off, everybody's off.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I see a lot of parents on Facebook. They're like, hey, so much for that time change. Doesn't change what's happening around here. And yeah, we're working on shifting our son who's 13 months old. And I think it might work out. So I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
We've got him going to bed later, but he's still waking up early. But I think he might start sleeping a little more now because luckily we've got Myra helping us out, who's a pediatric sleep coach. Yeah. So let's see here. Jason says it's the mid 40s, not a fan of time change. I don't like that it's dark at 5:30. Gotcha. Yeah. If you're just tuning in, we're wondering if you like the time change or don't like it. Angie says, if I still had little ones, the time change would be hard, but I gotta admit, I get 1 more hour of sleep. Yeah, I think this time change is interesting in the fall because if you've been going to bed too late, it's a great way to just you can keep going to bed at that time and then wake up a little later. But in the spring, ugh.
Yeah, no.
Wow. Brutal. We lose an hour of sleep in the spring. And I think traffic accidents go up in the spring.
Really? I could see that.
I read that like the day or two after the time change, there's more traffic accidents, which the more I learn about sleep deprivation, the scarier I am to drive.
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the most interesting aspects of the course we took when they talked about the micro sleep and basically comparing sleep deprivation and driving to driving while impaired or under the influence of alcohol. That's scary because it shuts off your brain. Yeah, I remember a long time ago when I was still in high school, I was down at the Jersey Shore and it was raining, so we couldn't go to the beach. So I was watching some TV show and they had all these drunk people drive this test course. Like they had all these people drink all night and then they drove a test course with the car, and like they had like fake doggies running out in front of them and cones they had to go around. And then they had a bunch of people stay up all night and they compared the two, and both situations were horrific. The only difference was the drunk people, when they ran over the dog, they were crying because they were drunk. So when they ran over the dog, they're all crying and they're like, I ran over a dog. I hit a dog.
Yeah, whereas the sleep deprived people were like, whatever.
I just want to go home.
I want to go back to sleep. So anyway, yeah, I thought that I always remember that show. Now I'm understanding more why. And they said like sleep deprived is the same as being drunk, basically. So
it is.
Sweet. So let's dive in. We've got 8 tips for you today, and I'm sure we've got more than that. We're going to talk about a couple things you can do. So kind of our thought today is, so we started this group. I'm going to put that up in the comments. If you haven't joined the group, jump on into it. We're going to support each other through the holidays here and try to help each other make some changes. And here are some of the options you have for making changes. So Erin, you have the list up, right? We can just kind of go back and forth. Why don't you start off then?
Okay, so the first tip is to establish a bedtime routine, which can be difficult to do, especially if you have a full work day and you come home and you have the adult responsibilities like dinner and cleaning up after dinner and caring for children, bathing them and getting them to bed. And then there's always this drive to get one more thing done. And whatever that might be, whether it's work related or whether it's leisurely related, like, oh, I just really want to finish this, next project or something like that. So establishing a bedtime routine and being consistent with it has been shown to be a very effective method to help people kind of unwind at the end of the day and prepare to go to sleep. And I think I mentioned this in the previous episode. You have to prepare for sleep just like you would prepare for your day, not in the same manner, obviously, because one is starting the day and the other is ending it. But nonetheless, you have a routine. And so take the routine aspect that you apply to the morning in whatever order. So you've got certain tasks that you do in the morning. What are the certain tasks that you need to do at night to kind of unwind? So that would be the first thing, is get a bedtime routine. And they even say that with children. Like, that's one of the really important things in preparing them for quality sleep, is to establish a bedtime routine. So whether it's maybe they eat dinner and they bathe and then it's time to read a book or two and then it's night time. You brush teeth and then it's time to go to bed. So something like that. I mean, routine is something that I think humans like by nature. We're creatures of habit. And so that can be a good thing, and it can also be a really difficult thing if the habits aren't so healthy. So establish that routine would be the first thing.
Awesome. So another thing is to establish a consistent rising time, which means wake up at the same time every day. So on the weekend, like, I think you could allow yourself an extra 20 minutes or so, but once you get into that like hour to 2 hours of sleeping in, you're basically resetting your circadian rhythm and resetting when your melatonin is going to start releasing. I think, I'm not totally sure on all of that, but I just want to say you're throwing off your body clock. So just pick a time and stick to it. So what's a time you can wake up every day for work that you can also deal with on the weekend? So maybe you need to wake up a little later for work. and kind of like be ready in the morning, already have your breakfast ready to go or something, so that if you like to sleep in. And then on the weekend, like maybe just allow yourself a little extra time, but not too much, because when we change our wake up time every day, we reset our clock, and then it's harder to go to bed on Sunday night, and then it takes you like 3 days to get back on track, and then you're almost back at the weekend again. So
yeah.
So set a consistent rising time. And I'm wondering, if you're listening right now, what time do you get up every day, or what time is an ideal rising time for you? For me right now, I don't have much of a choice. My son gets up at, well, right now he's getting up at 5:30, which was 6:30 a week ago. So I keep telling myself, I'm like, it's actually 6:30. It's actually 6:30.
I can do this.
I try to get up by 6:30, and I can't sleep in anymore. But I used to like get up at 6 during the week and 10 on the weekend. And now that I know everything I know about sleep, I'm like, oh, my poor body. Like, no wonder I felt so terrible on Monday. Yeah. So what time do you guys get up? I'm just curious. What time do you get up, Erin? Sounds like 5 o'clock.
Yeah, well, right now, rising time is whenever Olivia decides it is. But usually, and I like to work out in the morning. I like to get it done because I never really know what my day is going to be like. So I usually
Sorry, my fault.
okay, I'm like, and apparently we're done.
Yeah. And you're like, you said, I usually what?
I like to work out in the morning. So I like to get up and just get it done. So usually on average, I'm going to say it's between like 5:30 and 6, depending. And I'm trying to be really consistent with that. I'm horrible about being consistent about that on the weekends, though.
Yeah.
I will freely admit that. I suck.
You get Olivia to go back to sleep on the weekend?
I would say it's like a 70-30 success rate. Every once in a while she will, and we do let her snuggle, and we'll watch, like Little Einsteins or, something like that for a little while before we get up and get breakfast. So every once in a while she'll doze back off, but usually once that child opens her eyes, she is ready to go.
Yeah, that's that cortisol.
Yeah.
That's the cortisol. That's Billy says 8 to 8:20. That sounds really nice. That sounds like a nice happy medium.
Yes, it does.
Get up for work and get up on the weekend.
Yeah.
Now that I get up at the same time every day, I do get that cortisol rush, and it's actually kind of nice. It like gets you up and going. So
yeah, I don't feel so sluggish when I'm super consistent.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Yeah. So what's a third tip, Erin?
Third tip. So caffeine is one thing, and we kind of touched on this in the first episode about sleep science, but if you have caffeine a little bit, like that sweet spot for having caffeine is usually about 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. And so many of us rise and get that coffee going, or get whatever you're a fan of, whether it's tea, it's coffee, whatever. And that will disrupt your cortisol levels, the cortisol rhythm in your body. And so our bodies function on a rhythm. And when that rhythm is disrupted, it takes the body a long time to reprogram it to adapt to that new routine. So try to avoid drinking that caffeine until like 9 or 10. And then don't push it into the later part of the afternoon, because caffeine will remain elevated in the system. It's still present even after you finish drinking that, mocha latte, whatever. It's still going to be in your body. And so that can make it more difficult to calm down at night and get to sleep.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to add, if you're going to start pushing your caffeine later, just do it a little bit every day. And that goes for all these tips, just like 5 minutes a day. So don't go from 6 a.m. coffee to 9 a.m. I think that might be more dangerous than not sleeping at night. So just push that coffee a little bit every day. And Billy wants to tell everyone, don't put anything in your coffee.
Just black.
Yeah, just black. And yeah, actually next week we're going to have an episode on caffeine and coffee. So make sure you tune in for that. So great tip about caffeine. And I want to add, I guess the next tip is to, like you said, stop having caffeine. About the researchers said 7 hours before bedtime, because the half-life of caffeine is longer than you think. Like it may feel like it wore off, but it didn't, and it's still disrupting. And caffeine blocks adenosine. Adenosine is the sleep hormone. As soon as you stop sleeping, adenosine starts building, and then when you have caffeine, it blocks adenosine. So you want to give that adenosine that 7 hours to build up for bedtime. And again, if you want to know more about adenosine, check out the other episode from last week, and we talked all about it. And it's in the comments there, that episode. Mandy, hi. She says, Mandy. I love black coffee. That's good. See, I like only having coffee if it's got all the fun stuff in it, like pumpkin spice, the Starbucks pumpkin spice latte, man.
I've never had one.
It's just like a sugar. It's like you may as well just go get, some ice cream at that point. But
yeah, it's diabetes in a cup.
Yeah, Mandy, definitely join us next week when we talk about caffeine and coffee. Yeah, and if you're watching right now, tell us, what time do you have caffeine in the morning, and what time do you have it if you have it? I wait till 9 or 10, and a lot of times my friend Myra and I will text each other in the morning at like 9 or 10 and be like, it's happy hour, it's time. Like if you're having a rough morning, I'll be like, I'm having a rough morning, and she's like, happy hour's in 30. So that's kind of what we call it. Awesome. So the caffeine. Erin, you got another one for us?
Yeah, so you had mentioned establishing a consistent wake-up time. The same goes for bedtime. Establish a consistent bedtime. And again, our bodies function on a rhythm. So when we're not consistent, the body doesn't like that. It likes homeostasis. It does not want to be disrupted. But we do a lot of things to disrupt it. So try not to do that. Try to establish the same bedtime. And there are going to be times that it's not going to work. Maybe you have a late social engagement or something like that. Your child is being enormously uncooperative for you at bedtime. Not that I'm speaking from experience by any means, but it's not always going to be a possibility, but do everything you can to prioritize that bedtime. Like whether that's 9, it's 10, whatever it is, just try to be consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and realize that if you go to bed later on a particular night, you might sleep really great that night. You might sleep really deep, and then you might go to bed again the next night that time. But that's why that consistent rising time is important, because if you go to bed later, you might want to wake up later. But if you just wake up the same time the next morning, you won't get as blown off, but you might feel a little off that day. But it's worth it, I think, to feel a little off that day so that you don't throw off your rhythm completely. So it's okay to go to bed a little late sometimes, but realize if you do go to bed a little later, you might have like a wake up during the night, or you might wake up earlier than usual, because when you stay up past your bedtime, cortisol releases, and cortisol then stays high, and then it makes it harder to sleep. So it's just a choice that we make. And Erin and I really want to emphasize to everyone, we talked about this before the show, like, to just be gentle with yourself and easy on yourself. Like, we don't need to, we're not trying to set up strict rules here or make everyone feel like, oh my gosh, I have to be perfect. We want to, at the end of the show, we want to give you some tips on how to just be gentle and be okay with that. And that's something that our friend Myra, who's a sleep coach, recommends too. She's all about being gentle. So Billy says he has 8:30 to 10:30, no warm beverages after that. So that's good. Sounds like you've got a good, there in the morning and then nothing else. And then Mandy says 9:30, 10 is coffee. Wow. Alrighty. Already on track. I like it.
You guys, you're so smart.
Yeah. So awesome. So consistent bedtime. Let me see what else we have here. We've got, I thought this was interesting, and I am having a hard time with this one, is finishing dinner a few hours before bedtime, because right now we're going to bed kind of early in my house, and dinner used to be at the time we go to bed. So we've had to kind of move dinner earlier, but sometimes it's landing up an hour before, and then your body is still digesting. And Erin, I think you know a little more about those mechanisms, how long digestion takes. What did you say, 3 hours or 2 hours?
Depending on what you eat, the composition of the food. I mean, some foods are much faster to break down. I mean, proteins take a while, fats take a while. But yeah, so eating a real high fat meal before you go to bed, no bueno, not a good idea. And that being said, make sure that you are eating as early as you possibly can to still give yourself that ability to kind of relax, let your body, let your parasympathetic nervous system digest and work and get those nutrients into your body so that it's not doing it when you are trying to go to bed. And there can be certainly an increase in gastric distress if you decide to go to bed on a pretty full stomach, heartburn, you're in a face down or face up position. And that's not really the most appropriate position for digestion to occur. So make sure that you're being good to your body in that way. And late dinner times are going to happen every once in a while.
Yeah.
Our days get thrown off. They're unpredictable. That's the thing. As predictable as human behavior might be, it's not the same for our days. We like to be creatures of habit, but days aren't always consistent. So that does make it hard to establish that rhythm.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so being upright is best for digestion then. Yeah, I guess, this may be TMI, but
now
I remember someone once telling me, she was a nurse, and she said, like, if you're trying to poop and you're having a hard time, put your arms over your head, like, basically get the blood, like, flowing down through the system, like, use gravity. And I guess when you're giving birth, they tell you too, like, if you can be upright, that's going to be the best position for birth because gravity is going to help. So just saying.
Just a little FYI there, a little tidbit.
I just had to throw that in there because why not? If we can't talk about poop, then what are we doing?
Well, we are scientists, so really.
We got some great comments here. Mandy says, depends on what goes on that day. If I go to a rock show, I can't sleep till 3 a.m. Yeah, and that happens.
That makes sense. You're stimulated.
It happens. Totally. That stuff happens. April says 8 o'clock before my workout. I think she's probably talking about coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about that next week, about caffeine before workout, after workout. So we'll definitely, thanks April for sharing that workout detail. Billy says, once my eyes are open, I can't go back to sleep no matter what time it is. Yeah. That might be the cortisol from what I know. If cortisol, so I think we talked about that last week, where cortisol has a rhythm and the rhythm could all be like a little higher than normal. And so, yeah, Billy, talk to us in the sleep group about that. And maybe we can, if you want to make any changes, maybe we can help you with that a little bit. So, and I'm curious, Billy, so far, which of these tips seems like it might help you the most, Billy? I'm just curious since you've been so active in here. All right, so I think it's like right on the same track with the dinner thing. We've got the turn off electronics a little earlier. Mm-hmm. So turning off your devices and lights.
Yes.
Because the longer you keep the lights on, the longer melatonin stays suppressed. And melatonin is that happy drug that helps us fall asleep. And it's not going to come out to play unless it's darker. So dimming your lights, and I think most of us know this, dimming your lights, turning off your devices. It's like we all know it, but it's kind of like, well, we all know we need to like exercise, but we don't always do it.
Yeah, we all know an apple a day is good for us, but I'm venturing to guess that not all of us eat an apple a day. So, yeah. I mean, knowledge doesn't equal behavior change, I guess, is that point. But like you said, yes, you've got to, this is what I struggle with is like the electronics. I mean, my cell phone is my only phone. Mark's got his own phone, obviously, but we don't have a separate landline. And so our phones are always with us in our bedrooms at night, one on my nightstand, one on his. And my students seem to be the most active at the time that old woman here wants to go night-night. And they tell me email between like 8 and 9, 9:30. And I'm one of those instructors that's like, I don't want to have them wait. I had plenty of bad professor in college. I'm not going to be one of those.
Yeah.
So now I've tried to like back that time off. And so if I get emails past a certain point, I just wait until the morning to reply. And that takes all my self-restraint and concentration not to pick up that phone and reply to them.
Yeah.
I want to do it. I want to get it done. I want them to know I'm there. I hear you. I want to help you. But at some point you have to set that boundary. So that's one thing I'm working on along that point of shutting those electronics down, dimming the light.
Yeah, I started working on that one a few weeks ago, and I still break the rules sometimes, but I finish dinner, I check my messages one more time, and then I turn it off. put it in airplane mode. And I feel like it really helps. It just helps start my brain off. And then I have to find something else to do. And so what else am I going to do at that time of night? So I stretch. And
awesome idea.
Stretch. Yeah. We got a couple more comments here. Green tea. Sweet, Dee Dee. Thanks for tuning in. And April says, electronic shutdown helped my daughters. Thanks, lady. Oh really?
Nice.
Did you just start doing that, April? I'm curious. And Billy says, late meal and consistent bedtime are his two that he's working on. Awesome. I'm so happy to hear that. That's great.
Yeah.
How's it going, Billy? I look forward to hearing more about that. So I think I'm going to hold these tips up, Erin. I think we got them all.
Yeah. The one thing that maybe we didn't say, I did talk about establishing the routine, but for bedtime, but starting that routine 30 to 60 minutes before you actually want to be in bed, lights out, brain off, go to sleep. Right. So give yourself that time, like start dimming the lights, do some like stretching, like you said, or maybe like a bedtime yoga routine. There's a lot of really great options out there. Avoid like a vigorous workout. That'll just keep you jacked up. Don't do that. Like just kind of just chill. So establishing that routine, but starting it, implementing it 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime, I think is the only point I didn't say with that tip.
Yeah. And that's great. 30 to 60 minutes is definitely a good amount of time. But again, if you're just starting with this, you've never had a bedtime routine. Like if your bedtime routine is brushing your teeth, putting on your pajamas, and that's it, then just add one thing to that. Like, add one thing before that and then add something else. And, if you're just, well, here's what we want to do. We're going to talk a little bit more about some troubleshooting strategies, but let me see if I can get this lined up.
I can see it.
Can you see all those? So I want everyone to pick a number and just tell us which one of these are you really feeling like you want to work on? And what we want to do in our Facebook group is to encourage you to work on these, and we're going to ask everyone to check in once a week and just tell us how it's going. And then, once you've mastered one of these, you can move on to another one. But we just would love everyone to pick one and just pick whichever one you feel like would be easiest to work on and just work on that one. So we just want to keep it simple. So go ahead and just put that number in the comments if you want to share with us. And otherwise you can always share with us in the Facebook group later, which is in the comments for you. So Erin, you wanted to chat about some troubleshooting strategies.
Yeah. So the thing with behavior change is it takes time. It's not a linear process. So it's common to make a change and then go backwards and have a lapse or a relapse. And so I think one of the important things with any behavior change you're looking to make, whether it's related to sleep or something else, is to make the gradual change that you can live with. You might have identified a whole bunch of holes that you need to fill or a whole bunch of things that just aren't going well. Don't wrap your arms around all 15 of them and try to tackle them, because I promise you will frustrate yourself and you will fail and walk away and probably develop 6 or 7 more bad habits that you'll have to deal with later. Do it right. Okay? So make the change you can live with. Make it gradual. And if it doesn't go as well as you had planned, keep in mind that a plan rarely survives its implementation. So that means that you're going to have to make some concessions here, some changes there. And that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be hard on yourself. And I always encourage people to start journaling. Whatever change it is you're trying to make, start journaling and kind of keep a reflective capture of what's going well and what's not. Because then you might be able to see a pattern. You might be able to say, oh, well, these 3 things are in common with the way I felt on these 3 days. Maybe this something over here is my issue. Maybe that's my sticking point or the barrier that I can't seem to get beyond. So I encourage journaling. You don't have to write a novel, just even like single words. I had, maybe ate chili for dinner, had horrible heartburn at 9 p.m. I don't know. That's just an example. But start journaling, make it simple. And the idea is not to add stress to your life. The idea here with not only this show, but with the group, is to reduce stress and to help you achieve the health goals that you want to achieve, and or any other goal, whether it's being productive, whether it's, engaging in more social events or starting a new project. The whole idea is to help you de-stress. So that's one thing is be gentle with yourself and just accept the fact that behavior change is going to take time. You didn't develop these bad habits overnight. You're not going to unravel them in a single night or a single week. It may take up to 6 months.
Yeah.
And if you accept that, be forgiving of yourself.
Yeah. It's just like with exercise. A lot of you are fitness professionals or personal trainers, and you know that those changes don't happen overnight. And it's the same with sleep. You might do a great job for a few nights and not see any results right away because your body might be processing cortisol, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But just like with exercise and eating, it's all about consistency. And yeah, I love the idea of the journal. Like that's something the sleep researchers recommend, is to keep a journal, what time you wake up every day, what time you go to bed every night. And then that way you can just kind of keep track of that. And on those lines, Myra jumped in here with a great question. What time frame is the adult ideal sleep time? I heard it's 8 to 11. And I love this question because I don't know that I think that there is generally like, 8, 9, 10. I've heard that there's a time where you almost can't fall asleep, like around 8 o'clock. I think that's why that's prime time on TV, except it's so evil because then you're watching TV and it's throwing you off. But yeah, I think 8, 9, 10, probably more like 9 or 10 I've heard. Like I've read the ideal is 10 to 6. Like that's the ideal time to sleep. But I love that you asked this, Myra, because I feel like you just have to find what works for you. And sometimes you have to experiment a little bit. Like I read one article that said, just set your consistent rising time and stick with that for a while, and then play around with the bedtime. And when you find the bedtime that allows you to sleep through the night and feel rested in the morning, that's your ideal bedtime. And then you've got it. And then you'll know what it is. And, only move your bedtime by like 15 minutes a night, and make sure you stay consistent with when you move it, just leave it there for a few nights and see what happens. So anyway, that's a little more advanced of a strategy, but yeah, Myra, thanks for asking that question. And
that's a great question.
I feel like we just need to have awareness and pay attention. And that's why I love your idea about the journal, Erin. And also just like even with your bedtime routine, like I found out the hard way the other night that if I can journal before bed and I'll sleep well. But if I try to write like for work, it like stimulates me too much and then I can't go to sleep. So I just have to be really careful with what I do before bed because I might think it's relaxing and it's actually stimulating me. So
yeah, I'm the same way. I can't do anything work related or related to the field of study that we're in, because if I read like a magazine article or a journal article and then I'm all jacked up about it and I want to go research more.
Yeah.
I have to read like some nasty mystery novel or something like that to really shut my brain down, because otherwise I'll be too engaged in the content and I'll be like, ooh, I have this question. I wonder what's out there. No, I can't do it.
Yeah, we got to find what works for each of us. And it's really an experimentation process, just like with eating and exercise. And Mandy said, radio helps me to relax and turn off the lights. Thanks, Mandy, for participating today. We love having you here. And Santiara is back saying, reading a book and or listening to sounds of nature helps me sleep. That's an excellent one for sure. And Myra says, instead of sleeping in on the weekend, a nap. There you go. Good tip, Myra. Myra's queen of naps because she's a pediatric sleep coach. So she's all about the naps. So yeah, that's a great idea. So if you're going to bed too late, just get up at the same time and then take a nap. I love that idea. Thanks, Myra. You are a gem. Billy says he's going to work on number 3, which is consistent bedtime. Billy, what time are you going to go to bed? I'm curious. And Angie says she's going to work on number 5. Turning off electronics is the hardest thing to get in the habit.
I'm with you, sister.
And here comes the quote for the day. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Ben Franklin.
Yes.
Mandy says she has a sound machine to help her sleep.
Oh, nice. And along those lines, Mandy, thanks for bringing that up. There's some great apps out there too that offer soundscapes, like the kind of music that you could list, like waterfalls or, kind of like listening to the sounds of nature. But there's some great apps out there that might be something that you might enjoy too, if you want to research that.
Totally. Yeah. Myra says she loves the journal idea. Thanks, Myra.
Yep.
It's good to get kudos from a sleep expert.
Yes.
Billy 11 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. ish. All right. And then getting up at 8:30. That sounds like it could work out pretty good.
Yeah, it's still an 8-hour, about an 8.5 hour time frame.
Yeah. I do want to add, Billy, one thing I read, or I was listening to Ariana Huffington talk. She does a TED Talk. She has a book. She said that, I don't actually, you know what? I don't even know if it was her, but they said that 2 hours of sleep before midnight is equal to, I don't even know how to say this. Basically, being asleep before midnight is golden. Like it's really good. And so Billy, I think that's a great goal. Like if you've been going to bed at 1:30 or 2, definitely try to push it back a little bit.
Yeah.
But then from there, just keep in the back pocket that like maybe shifting your schedule earlier, like completely earlier, might be something for down the road. It might. I don't even know. I know that some people do really well with going to bed at midnight and waking up at 8. So I hope it works out for you. But that was something I read that I wanted to mention. So
yeah, like try not to go to bed and wake up the same day. You know what I mean? Like if you're going to bed at 12:30 a.m. and waking up at 8 a.m., you're essentially going to bed and waking up the same day.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
So something to think about that just popped into my head. I'm like, oh yeah, AM and AM.
But yeah, I want to go back to that behavior change thing you talked about, Erin. If Billy's going to bed at 2 right now and waking up at 8, then I think it's a great progress to try to go to bed a little earlier. But if you're having trouble falling asleep, you may need to like actually wake up a little earlier in the morning, like set your alarm for 7 to get yourself to be able to go to bed earlier. It's just so strange how these things work.
Yeah, the mind is a funny little place. I mean, it truly controls us if we don't learn to conquer it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you got to play little games with yourself and trick yourself into doing things sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and the time we wake up, from what I understand, it sets your bedtime. So whatever time you wake up, that kind of sets your bedtime. So I think it's awesome that like Billy's already getting up at the same time every day. And now he just needs to figure out what time to go to bed so that he doesn't, because he's told us in the group that he wakes up during the night and can't go back to sleep, or whenever he wakes up, he can't go back to sleep. So it'll be interesting to follow you on that, Billy. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I'd love to know anyone else, like what is your battle? What is it that you're working with right now? We would love to know. And we'd love for you to come join our group. It's going to be a group that goes through the holidays here. Our idea is that if we work on our sleep, it will help us be better at eating well. It helps you make more rational decisions with eating. It gives you the energy you need to exercise. And so we're just wondering if we tackle sleep this holiday instead of, willpower with eating, if maybe it would help everything. So we encourage you to work on your own sleep and then to help your clients with their sleep. And anybody's welcome to join the group. We're posting articles and, just supporting one another.
Yeah.
So, and the group is here in the comments. I'll throw it in one more time. And then I think unless anyone else has any questions, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I think we covered all of our tips and strategies. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, everyone. We are going to talk about caffeine next week and about coffee and how that affects exercise. And I'm sure sleep will come up because I know where we're focused. So join us next week. If you liked this episode today and found it helpful, click the share button right now. Share it with your friends. And we'll be here next week, Wednesday, 11:30 Mountain Time and 1:30 Eastern Time. And we'll see you then. Thanks for being here.
For joining.
Myra, thoughts on sleep apnea?
That's a big one.
And how do you come off of a high? Yeah.
Okay, so with sleep apnea, it's actually one of the things they talked about in that class that we took was about how common it is. And there are treatments for it. And a lot of individuals that are overweight will have that problem. And there are actual like sleep machines that they'll have to use at night. They're like in the form of a mask. Are there specific things you want to know about sleep apnea?
Yeah, that may be for a future topic. I think we're going to do a follow-up show in a month and do some troubleshooting. So we'll learn a little more about that and then come back to it. And Mandy asked about coming off of a high.
So like if you're super, maybe like Mandy, you gave us that example earlier of going to some sort of concert or something like that.
Oh,
This this works for me. But again, like we've said over and over, try to find what works for you as well, because not everybody's the same. And so this advice is very general, not meant to be, it'll work for like a one size fits all prescriptive type of thing. But, you know, I find like if I've been out doing something and I come home, then I have to shut off the noise. I have to like read a book, or I have to just sit there in silence, or just watch Olivia play or something like that to just shut my mind down. Sometimes maybe something for you to try might be having like a nice cup of chamomile tea. That's a very relaxing, non-caffeinated tea that has some relaxation and sleep promoting benefits. Might be something to try. You know, doing some stretching or yoga a little bit before bed. And even if it's like 5 minutes, that can really help center you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I last night, because of the time change, I'm staying up later than normal. And I felt that high, like that cortisol rush at like 6:37 last night, which was 7:38 last week. And I felt it. But then I had to just like what happens is then you get engaged and you miss your next window. But I just shut off my phone and I just stayed calm and I waited, and it was about an hour. And then I got another window, like a yawn, and I went to bed right when I got those yawns and fell asleep, no problem. I think the problem is when we get the high, we're doing stuff. We're like riding on the high. So I feel like if you've got the high, awesome. Like enjoy it, have fun with it. And then as soon as you're done with whatever it is you wanted to do, then just shut down and relax, turn off your phone and wait for those yawns or whatever signals your body gives you to go to sleep. So hopefully, thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah, and I think in about a month, we're going to check in here and maybe do like it may not even be at the normal time, but we'll do a troubleshooting episode. So join us in the sleep group and ask questions there. And maybe we'll pop in there live sometime if we find it necessary.
Yeah.
And come and join us next week.
Yes. Thanks for your comments, everyone. Great questions.
Yeah. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for joining us.